Community School District. Please dial the 3-digit extension of the party you are trying to reach, or please choose one of the following options. Para español, presione 255.
My name is Alejandro, which means defender, and I take that seriously in a way that my brothers consider me as their defender in life. I have two brothers. One of them is 10 years old, that's Diego, and the other one is 9 years old, and that's Edgar. And Leilani, she's gonna be 6 months. They consider me like their dad because they don't see him at all. So whenever we do something, they always go to me, or whenever they have a field trip, they check in with me first. Like most of the time before even my mom. They're always like looking up to me, so my mom always tells me, you got pressure because you can't screw up. One of the things that I enjoy doing with my brothers is in the summer, taking them to different places and taking them outside of Postville to the soccer tournaments where I participate, and having them to enjoy things that when I was little I wanted to enjoy. I want them to go to college and get an education further. I know like the middle one's like really good in soccer. I told him like if he wants to do further out beyond that, I'll help him, and I'll take him to camps and everything. The little one wants to be everything like me. He said if I don't do anything, he won't do anything, and if I do everything, he'll try to do everything. So I just gotta keep the little one in line. Some of my friends, they just want to get done with high school and go straight to work. I have a different perspective towards that because I've been raised saying that if I can have like a small job, then I'll do it, but I won't quit school just to have a job. Here, you see to your left, you see someone Hispanic, to your right, someone Somalian or anything, and we all get along with each other. So that makes it a lot better, having a lot of different cultures, so there's no racism.
Hometown to the world. Postville is and ought to be a place that has been celebrated as a melting pot of cultures and traditions. At some point they had people from 53 different nationalities living in this tiny little town in Northeast Iowa. It really was a community that has had a history of integration of new folks, and that has benefited both those coming in as well as the existing folks in the community.
This is a small school, small town, and everybody knows everybody. And we all sort of look out for each other and care for each other, whether we want to accept it or believe it or not. You know, when people go through tough times, everybody knows, and a lot of times, you know, a lot of people help out.
Life is definitely different today. I got to see Postville through the mid-'80s into the '90s, and saw how houses were up for sale and not selling, and businesses were closing, storefronts were empty. When the plant opened, within several years, all the houses were sold and filled, and apartments were full, and storefronts were full.
Of course, in Postville, there's not too many job opportunities. You're stuck at agri at this plant. The guy that I married, and he says, Maria, and I'm like, yeah, and he's like, I'm going back to Guatemala. And I says, you're what? I said, don't play with me like that. He says, no, Maria, I'm serious. He goes, the police have me.
The Iowa State Patrol, local officers, and federal agents swooped down on the agri-processors plant right at 10. They locked down the facility and began asking questions of workers. Those outside the gates could only watch and wonder.
This is a real bad situation. I mean, what is happening right now is going to affect a lot of people, a lot of families, a lot of even businesses, you know.
Pottsville raid was on May 12, 2008, and a large, about 1,300 operatives from a variety of different agencies, primarily led by Homeland Security's branch, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, staged the largest single-site immigration raid in the country's history in the small town of Pottsville, Iowa.
The criminal warrant claimed there was evidence of identity theft and fake Social Security numbers in use by large numbers of workers.
They basically surrounded the plant with armed personnel. They had helicopters flying around. They closed the access points to town. There were snipers up on the roofs, and then they moved in with black suits, drawn weapons. They identify a few people who had either children or other minors that were dependent on them, and then eventually began to conditionally release a handful of them with a monitoring device.
My mom was arrested on the immigration raid. She was forced to have an ankle bracelet for a year and a half. To many people, she was looked as a criminal because she had an ankle bracelet, but I don't think it's called being a criminal trying to get their kids to have a good life. What kind of mother doesn't want a good future for their kids? And I think that's what she tried to do.
The end result was pretty quick. And obviously I think that was the intentions of the government, is let's do this as quickly as we can. We don't want this to be hugely broadcast.
This action was intended to detain somewhere around 700 to 800 suspected undocumented workers in the Pottsville plant. They came during the day, so they ended up detaining close to 400. Around 300 to 400 other people left the community out of fear. The population of the community was devastated.
In the K-8 building, there was 120 kids that did not come back to school the next day.
One of the worst things is that the raid happened on the first shift. And because of that, it affected families more than it did individuals. And in some cases, both the mother and the father in families were arrested.
He finally had what he wanted. He had his family, and all of a sudden all of that was ripped from right underneath his feet in a matter of seconds. But don't they realize what they're doing to the children when they rip a mother or father away from them that takes care of them and provides for them and loves them and gives them shelter, and they rip this away and they're ruining families? How many people did they hurt in this raid? Kids that have never seen their parents again.
For me, the worst part was later on, and I think the next morning, walking into St. Bridget's Catholic Church and seeing all the families huddled there, and it just looks of utter shock because of what had happened. And that began a very, very long, several-month process of helping those families.
Very chaotic, you know, in the days after the raid. You have a community that's basically been hit by something equivalent to a natural disaster without having any of the resources you normally have to respond to a natural disaster.
What the United States government did to us was wrong. Hopefully one day they'll realize what they've done. The raid destroyed businesses, families, people. It destroyed the community.
I grew up with some kids that they were everything. Like, we did everything after school, throughout school. There were like 4 real close friends that had to go back to Mexico. And one of them actually right now, he got married. They wish they could be here. They just don't have the same opportunities.
I want him to come home more than I want anything in this world. And if I die before I see him, then I know I gave it my all. Today he sent me this at 1:41 in the afternoon, and it says, "My love, I miss you so much, you are my life." It goes on and on. Every day of us, texting and calling, we express how much we love each other and want to be together.
Probably the biggest one that is here, because people here are used to and raised that you have to go to high school and finish high school, and if you can, go to college. Over there, you go to 6th grade, and if you want to go to school from there, you do. If not, you have to go out in the field and work. If you don't work, you don't eat.
When they deported my husband back to Guatemala, a bag of beans for us is 50 cents. We didn't even have 50 cents to come by out there. I actually went through 33 days with not even one pinto bean to eat. We struggled day in and day out, kids crying, stomach pain, nothing to eat. We literally went through starvation. To grow up like the other kids over there and not have a life, walk around barefoot, have no education. Here there's too many opportunities for them, and I don't want to take that away from them either. So what do? Do you take that away from them, or do you take the father away from them?
It's been really important for the school to welcome the students and the families who have come, regardless of who they are, what their race is, what their ethnicity is, what their religion is, and I think they've done a fantastic job of that. So I'd say again, the school is stable again. There's still transition, and the school administration and staff and teachers have done a fantastic job of dealing with the many changes.
We're a community that probably is 2,500 people. Kids here don't see color of skin. You know, all they see is sort of boy, girl, new kid, whatever. We have probably right now 50 Somalian to maybe 60 Somalians between, that's the whole district now, you know, which is a big influx of change. We're sitting at probably 35% Caucasian and 45 Hispanic and close to 10 African American, and then you know, we have other countries too. You know, the neat thing is we have several flags down our hallway that sort of specify and show the different cultures and countries that make up our school. And honestly, flag can go up and come down any day here because we have kids moving in and out so frequently. You don't have Hispanic village, or you don't have Somalian village in Postville. It's not big enough to even remotely think about doing that. The longest street's probably, you know, 6 blocks long. I mean, that's pretty big in Postville, but every other door, it might be Jewish, Somalian, white, Hispanic. So they sort of all intermingle together.
Another thing for people to realize is that rural America is changing dramatically, and Postville has led the way in many respects. We're going to see this more and more in our rural towns, that they're going to become multicultural. I think it's better to embrace that and to try to love and care for everybody in our community.
I don't think your color or where you're from has anything to do with anything about, love is priceless.
The community does not want to be known for a raid that happened in 2008. The daily lives of the community, the daily work of folks has much more to do with trying to make a living, trying to make an impact in a beautiful part of the world, and trying to provide a service to people around us.
There's several people who I know were actually hoping the raid would happen and hoping that the plant would close, that later on said, yeah, we didn't know how good we had it. There is a percentage of people who will never come around, but that's just being chained to the past, a past that we'll never see again in Postville or probably ever again in rural America. So for those who are willing to look forward and look ahead to the future, and maybe have learned a lesson from what happened, maybe that is the silver lining in all of this, that some people's attitudes have changed.
My wife and I embrace the diversity that our kids are raised in. Some people want to say, well, aren't there a lot of struggles educationally? Aren't they holding back your kid from being, you know, smarter? No, I don't see what it's ever done.